If you've been waiting for the Duster but you don't want to spend so much on the 1.3-liter version, then this car might be the one for you. So this is the 1-liter Duster. It gets the same 1-liter 3-cylinder turbo petrol engine from the Kiger, although Renault tells us they've made a bunch of changes to that engine to make it fit for this car, which is essentially heavier than the Kiger. It's also a larger car than the Kiger.
Now Renault offers it in three variants: Authentic, Evolution and Techno. What we have here is the Techno variant, which is effectively the fully loaded version of the 1-liter Duster, and it's yours for around 13.5 lakh rupees ex-showroom.
But here's the thing, the Duster has always been an enthusiast choice. People have been buying this new model for the way it drives, for the way it rides. So the big question is, does the smaller engine in this new model dilute the Duster experience in any way? Well, that's what we are here to find out throughout the course of this video, so stay tuned. Before we drive this thing, let me quickly talk you about the kind of features that you get for your money, and honestly, the feature list is quite impressive.
You've got a panoramic sunroof, dual zone climate control, a power tailgate, push button start, cruise control, auto folding ORPMs and an auto dimming IRVM.
So no, this doesn't feel like a cut price budget variant at all, because in here you get a 10.1-inch touchscreen system with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. You also get a 6-speaker audio system, get steering mounted audio controls, and for the back you even get rear AC vents.
For safety, 6 airbags, a tire pressure monitoring system and a rear view camera are all part of the package. Now if you're thinking about what the most expensive variant of the 1.3 Duster gets and this doesn't, well, you don't get the larger 18-inch alloy wheels or the fancy 10.25-inch digital instrument cluster. The 1-liter Duster also doesn't get level 2 ADAS, a 360-degree camera, ventilated seats, powered front seats, ambient lighting or the multiple drive and steering modes.
Now if I'm honest, none of these are deal breakers for me, because if you're buying the Duster, chances are you're buying it for what's under the skin, and that brings us nicely to the driving experience. So this car with a 1-liter turbo petrol engine, well, it sounds a little underwhelming, doesn't it? So this 3-cylinder turbo petrol engine, well, it makes around 100 horsepower and 160 Newton meters of torque, and it's paired only to a 6-speed manual gearbox so far. In fact, Renault is not offering this engine with an automatic gearbox of any sort, and the 6-speed manual, well, the gear ratios on that 6-speed manual have been specifically designed for this particular application, is what Renault tells us. And if you're comparing numbers, you will notice something interesting when you go through the numbers between this car and the specs of the competition cars that you have in this segment.
Cars like the Creta, the Seltos and the Sierra, they all have bigger engines. Even the Volkswagen Taygun and the Skoda Kushaq make more power from the 1-liter turbo engines.
Keeping all that in mind, I wasn't really expecting fireworks, but after having driven this car, I can tell you for sure that this 1-liter engine, well, it performs much better than what you would expect. Renault has worked on this 1-liter engine to make it really responsive at the bottom end and deliver most of its torque below 4000 RPM. In fact, you get all the torque that this engine has to offer from as low as 2000 RPM. Now, when you compare that to the competition cars, which mainly come with 1.5-liter naturally aspirated engines, well, in those engines you have to rev the engine past at least 4000 RPM for maximum pulling power. Now, because the low end on this engine is so strong and you also have a turbocharger, this 1-liter engine, well, it performs surprisingly well. It's quite potent at the bottom end and in the mid-range. And if you have not driven the 1.3-liter Duster engine so far, you would think that this car with this engine is perfectly adequate. As for the 6-speed manual gearbox, I had my doubts whether this would be as refined or as engaging to drive like the 1.3-liter version, because the manual gearbox version in the Kiger with this same engine, well, it's quite notchy. It's not as communicative as you would like. The feel that you get from the clutch pedal is quite uneven in that car, but whatever Renault has done, it seems to have worked wonderfully, because the clutch pedal is quite consistent, it's light enough, and you also get a lot of feel. The gearbox itself, this 6-speed manual, is one of the best in the class. You can roll through the gears effortlessly. It's got a nice slick action to it, which is lacking in the Kiger. So in that sense, Renault has legitimately done a lot of work with this gearbox to improve the driving experience, and it shows. Talking about the rest of the package, well, it's pretty much similar to the 1.3 version when it comes to the ride and handling. We'll start with the handling first. So the steering, well, it's one of the biggest positives of the Duster. It's very communicative. You can feel exactly what's happening on the road, in which direction the wheels are exactly turning. The stability overall is quite nice, and it's the same pretty much with this car as well. Overall, so handling is quite sorted. This is one of the most fun cars to drive in this segment, irrespective of the engines, whether it's the 1 liter or the 1.3. You're going to have a blast when you take this car across a set of winding corners. So no complaints over there really. Now, the only thing that comes close to this car when it comes to the dynamics is the new Seltos. I feel it comes close, but it's not as good as this car, especially the steering feel, the way how fluid it feels. The Seltos isn't quite there, but it comes close. So it is a pretty well sorted chassis. The grip wise, be it body control, or the way the car turns as you apply steering lock. So in all that sense, the Duster is still the king of its segment. And similarly, the ride quality is more or less the same as the 1.3 version. In the city at slow speeds, it is slightly firm, but as soon as you take the Duster on a bad patch of road, or through a gravel road, or if you are driving it through a trail, that's when you will realize why people love this car so much. It's the way this car feels over bad roads. It feels invincible, even though it's not a ladder frame SUV. It's basically a monocoque compact crossover. It's not even a real SUV, but it rides like one when you take it through the bad roads, and it's more or less the same in this version as well. So even though you're losing out on some performance, some straight line speed, but the overall experience is that of the 1.3 Duster, and all things considered, the driving characteristics that you would expect in a Duster, they are all there. It's just that you will have to make do with a little less speed, a little less straight line performance, but otherwise you get pretty much the same experience, and that's a huge positive. So between the Techno variants of the 1 liter version and the 1.3 liter version, the cabin experience remains identical, the feature list remains also the same. In fact, the whole practicality aspect of the car, well, it's quite identical. The only thing that changes is what happens when you press the accelerator pedal. And the difference is quite visible, because let me tell you, the 1.3 liter Duster, well, it's not just quicker than this car, it's also one of the most enjoyable cars that you can buy for less than 20 lakh rupees. And that's what makes this decision so much more difficult.
There's also the question of mileage. The 1 liter Duster claims a better fuel efficiency figure of 19.41 km per liter compared to 17.75 km per liter for the 1.3 version. But real world results aren't always that straightforward. In fact, with a full load of passengers and luggage, the bigger engine might actually end up working less hard and could narrow that fuel efficiency gap by a big margin.
If you ask me, I would still pick the 1.3 liter Duster version, because I think that's a sweeter deal. You get a lot more performance for the additional 1 lakh rupees that you're paying. But that's not to say that this 1 liter Duster is bad. In fact, it's far from it. You still get the invincible ride quality of the Duster, the very engaging handling of the Duster, and the overall driving experience, which is honestly the best in class if you ask me. The Duster 1 liter version, in terms of the way it drives, the engine is more than powerful enough. The gearbox is also quite sweet. The clutch pedal is also soft, and it's not very hard either. So overall, the driving experience is pretty much on par with the 1.3 liter version, considering what this and the torque that this engine makes. So no complaints over there. The only thing that you will have to make do with is slightly less enthusiasm every time you put your foot down in this 1 liter version.